Chapter 8. Return. To the human rationale, we're as good as fiction. Tara says to Selene. Her lips moving, the sounds carrying only inside her head, inside your head. Glowing behind them is Earth, a large blue sphere painted in the distance, a blue speckle on infinite black surface, a blue fleck caught in a goddess's pore. The moon beneath their feet in its many rolls, such as the crumbling rock caught in orbit. A light in the night, a metaphor for a state of creative imagination. I have this feeling that he's going to contact me. Tara can't help but feel this way because, well, it's already happened. Selene gives infinite responses, yet the one we hear is, if he speaks to you in a picture on the wall, he can contact you. That is as real as him believing that he's speaking to you where you are now. You're right. Them understanding where we stand now, being able to prove it. Fiction sounds fitting. Tara experiences infinite thoughts as one prevails. Well, critical thinking seems to be a necessity there. You can't have people believing simply anything, right? Then corruption of the strongest kind takes hold. Those who want to control a person's spirituality tend to pop up everywhere. Otherwise, we'd be right back where we started, believing only... She pauses, and she laughs at herself. Well, I guess in whatever seems to be going on here. They are every belief ever imagined, every religious sighting ever seen, every fictional being ever created or ever dreamed about, spoken about, or written down. Your sign outside says dry clanners, and I won't stand for it. Michael playfully slams his fist down on Naya's counter a few minutes before noon. You've got a letter burned out up there. And hey, you don't want to start a war with the wet clanners along the river. Unless it's a cult turf war that you're after. Don't let me step on your toes. Naya feeds him a coy smile. It's been a few weeks since they've actually laid eyes on one another. This they'll talk about over lunch today, out on a patio of her favorite French cafe as she drinks a raspberry lemonade with a shot of LaTorre, and Michael watches her glass sweat all over the table, a puddle of cold residue trickling to her lap and onto her jeans. His Long Island iced tea will puddle the same, but he'll catch his trickle before it lands in his crotch. The murderer he punched out was sentenced to 80 years in prison. However, his rich friends will make sure he serves a fraction of it. He mentions this to Naya passively, his anger eating him inside, though he attempts to direct this with a new punching bag and weight bench he got. They talk about more pleasant things like his fruit from the garden coming in nicely, how he puts fresh blackberries in his oatmeal every morning, and how, for snacks, he fries up some squash and zucchini mixed with onions and potatoes. This keeps him thinner than he'd prefer, but he's healthy nonetheless. Naya mentions how her parents have formally decided to move back here to live with her for preferably a short amount of time until they find jobs. She's stayed busy with the shop, taking on new clients such as Ruby Stone. Well, hey there, neighbor. Ruby walks into the Clanners, shortly following Michael and Naya returning from lunch, coolly pulling her sunglasses off her face. Spilled some wine on my pillow cover and figured I'd give this place a whirl since you told me such good things about Miss Naya. Ruby lays her ticket on the counter as Naya grabs it, disappearing to the back. Stopped by your place to pick up some blackberries earlier and left your package on the porch in the cooler. They do look nice, don't they? Michael agrees. They do. A little too tart for me so far. That hasn't held me back any, of course. Oh, sour and tart are when they're my favorite. Let 'em lose their shiny blackness and they'll be perfect if you like less tart. My batches are coming in nicely, too. Ruby references her weed plants. Thick and curvy, mysterious and quiet. Takes me away to cloud nine. The perfect lover, really, wouldn't you say? She laughs as Naya returns with her cover. Ruby places her hands on her hips with her flirty vibe. Well, now, wouldn't you look at us three? If this isn't some dream menage a trois, I don't know what is. I'm young enough, you're both lovely enough. I'll leave that out there for your two pretty minds to marinate in. Lately, Michael's shifted into studying other sciences such as quantum mechanics and physics. Like many laymen who become interested in such fields, he's interested in the phenomena of the double slit experiment. This is where you send a beam or a wave of light onto a flat screen that has two slits in it, and behind the screen there's a wall. The light wave goes through both slits in the screen and causes a pattern called diffraction on the wall, which is when waves interfere with one another through both slits and leave a pattern as evidence. Following, you shoot individual particles, not waves, through only one slit in the screen. What seems to happen here is that the single particle, somehow, still goes through both slits and interferes with itself like a wave would, causing the same diffraction patterns as the waves. This suggests that the particle is acting as a wave, even though it's a single particle. If the scientist then chooses to monitor this shooting of the particle as closely as she can as it enters the slits, the unexpected wave-acting particle completely stops its action, causing it to do what was expected, going through only a single slit. It's as if the act of observing things more closely alters the process's outcome. So the concept of our perceptions having an influence on objective phenomena comes about, or interdependency emerges, suggesting that our minds produce outward effects. There's also this concept called quantum entanglement. This is where two particles become intertwined and merge with astounding correlations. These twin particles, when separated from one another, will mimic their twin forever, whether they're separated by a few feet or separated by the distance of the entire known universe. If we measure a change in one, the other will have countered their partner's change forever. Michael puts the book down. He watches a man get off a bus across the street from the coffee shop, look in both directions before he crosses the steaming pavement with a slight limp on one side, the man's left foot slightly disfigured. Winter approaches, so the trees have no leaves. An orange car parked next to the curb casts no shadow due to the angle of the sun. Birds chirp outside the open entrance door. One bathes in a muddy street puddle, splashing, twitching, frightened from the gutter when it sees Michael through the window, so it flies off. His coffee creates steam from his cup, and it's black, always black, like his soul. He laughs at his silent joke. He approaches the counter, asking for a refill before he heads back home, pointing to a bag of monsoon Malabar beans that piques his interest. "I'm sorry," he says. "You sell me coffee all the time and we've never exchanged names. I'm Michael." He points back at himself. The barista points to the coffee of the day, written in pink chalk on a small blackboard. "I'm him," he answers Michael. Below the recommended shelled mocha reads John D's favorite, written in bright baby blue. "John, right. Your music recommendation sent me down some wonderful rabbit hole. I thank you for that. It means a lot to be given good music." "Didn't I hit on you one time?" John is straightforward. Yeah, but, no big deal," It's a hard knock life, John says, turning to give what appears to be a handshake, when his face squirms in rather obvious pain. Everything all right back there? Michael can see the pain in his face. John's face straightens to a disturbing faux happy face, a cultist Chick-fil-A happy face. This smile isn't real, by the way, John remarks. My tattoo's still healing, and I can't describe to you how much this hurts other than obscene curse words. Maybe I overdid it with the size. John cuts his sentence off quickly. That's what he said. He suddenly leans in closely to Michael, reaching towards his neck. A spiral? Yeah, it's a gift from my daughter. He tries to subtly decline talking about his necklace. This tattoo, is it in a sensitive spot, I guess? John turns back the other direction while making a few groaning noises, his back now facing Michael, and pulls his shirt up to expose the swollen, fresh flesh ink beginning at John's pelvis above his underwear line, slithering and scaling up his spine that's lined with freckled moles and scattered patches of hair. There's a figure embedded in the young man's back, his entire back. It takes a moment to remember where he's seen something similar, but Michael knows he's seen this tattoo before. It's a serpent. The tent, the fire, the sweat. He remembers. Vividly he remembers. It's the design that was on the girls' backs in the woods that first night. The exact same. John peeks over his shoulder. It's still swollen and shiny from the Vaseline. Ever heard of Kundalini, the sleeping serpent? I've seen it somewhere. Michael swallows his spit uncomfortably. In a book somewhere. He decides to lie. Who is Kundalini? John remains with his back turned, the ink exposed. Well, it's a yogic practice, a meditation. Kundalini is the serpent that's been sleeping inside you at the base of your spine, finally waking up once you pay her direct attention. There's a method to the madness, yet sometimes she awakens without you even knowing. Michael asks, is it a metaphor for some sort of energy? Some say it's a metaphor for creative potential, and the symbol of the snake climbing triggers effects on your awareness of life, your personality, and whatnot. It makes its way up each energy point, the chakras you hear us hippies talk about. Point is to bring into focus certain characteristics of being, expand our personalities, our consciousness mended with our unconsciousness. I resonate with the snake symbol. Well, obviously, it's massively etched down my back now. John pulls his shirt down. Michael listens to the door close behind him with his eyes on the sidewalk, paying attention to something going on in his head. John's tattoo influencing his thoughts. A serpent's eyes expand, its tongue flickering as it swallows colored mice of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and white. Chapter 9. Tara's Past. Tara sits in front of a solitary candle. Outside, the dark neighborhood sleeps with only the mild fizzle of fluorescent lights lining the street. A dog barks. 2 frogs are croaking. And down the hall, Renee's belly expands under her Elmo-faced blanket, lying sound asleep on her back in her crib. Closed inside her closet, there's no light other than the jiving orange flame. Tara's drawn a crescent symbol in mascara on her forehead. It's all she had, and she's done this so she can concentrate on its form. Her voice has deepened, talking to herself. Selene, find me, for I seek you. Selene, find me, for I seek you. She repeats the phrase for minutes. Selene, find me, for I seek you. Again and over she growls in her deepest tone. I seek, I seek. Tara has recently come across a story that involves a mortal falling in love with a goddess. His name is Endymion, and her name is Selene, the moon goddess. They can only see one another in their dreams. Tara finds this to be a beautiful idea, imagining that it has some sort of reality to it. Find me, Selene, find me. 8 hours east of their new home, Michael's dozed off with the lights on in a stale, smoky hotel room, although he made a non-smoking reservation. He's away for a night, following a seminar regarding his first academic publication. This is the first night that he spent away from Tara since Renee was born. Tara begins to have jumbled thoughts, her voice a catty growl over and over. Her focus comes back to her head, to the mascara moon on her forehead. 10 minutes have passed. She continues to chant. In an instant, she discovers herself somewhere, standing and facing who she presumes to be the goddess she has sought out. Selene is an exotic human form, surfacing a feeling of déjà vu in Tara's stomach, even in deep trance. She stares out at the goddess formed in her mind, awestruck by her electric presence, her splendor, enamored with her chalky white texture, her eyes, pierced brows, hair, lips, they all are a grayish white, a faint blue distortion of aura emanating. Such a beautiful being, Selene speaks, looking to Tara, her lightning radiance taking Tara's breath, pounding her heart. She stares back at the figure she's conjured. You're the loveliest of all the goddesses in my eyes, Tara soulfully admits. It's your story that mesmerizes me. They stare back at one another, full sound and silence between them. Aliens they are, figments of the other's imagination, aren't they? A sorceress meeting a goddess for the first time. Isn't it the first time? Selene's white scaleras with a thin line of glowing purple slit through them are locked to Tara's eyes, and suddenly they shift to look beyond her, giving a look of discontent, then coming back to meet Tara. We'll meet again, she says, and then she vanishes. Down the hall, Renee's eyes crinkle, cracking open as water dribbles from them in seconds, her reddening cries pouring from her mouth. The candle flame still flickers in the closet, but the ceremony ends as Tara's eyes pop open. Somewhere in this hotel room, Michael's eyes lunge open in the night. Tara walks back and forth down the hallway with Renee in her arms, her voice soothing as velvet. The moonlight shines in through a crack in the golden sheer curtains. Shadows from the trees sway over from the caressing, cool night wind. Renee's fingers wrap Tara's hair around them, making a tiny fist that tugs the hair at the roots, her other hand slobbery wet in her teething mouth. She turns in a slow, step-by-step circle to ease her cries. Tara spins with Renee. Michael turns in his bed. She pulls back the curtains to see a sliver of the moon looking back through the clouds. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. We found one another, she says to the night, letting the curtain fall. Selene and Tara are on the moon, after death. 1 second, 2 seconds. 30 seconds. That's why I'm here. Tara sits across from Selene. I had an experience with you in a ritual one night. We've met before. I remember I wanted to learn about Endymion, about how when dreaming we could experiment. I wanted to learn from you. I wanted to learn more about your story in case something ever happened between me and Michael. It's like I knew I was gonna die. Selene remains silent, looking on to the earth. Tara bends down, thinking, running her fingers through moon dust. Renee laughs in the distance as Tara turns to see the circus he set up around her. A woman sets her hair on fire at will, on and off, on and off, on and off. Renee helplessly laughs each time. Tara turns back to Selene. These other women weren't there the night of the ritual, though. Why are they here? She stands and dusts her hands off. Why can't I remember? Chapter 10. Tara's Infinite Past. Inside a bar in a busy downtown area, surrounded by live music, flashing lights, bloody fights, dancing, kissing, laughing, and most importantly, sexting, there's a young lady who sits on a bar stool, a young Tara. She's talking with another girl who looks to be about the same age. Only this girl's hairs are ebony curls, her skin raven feather, and her body is stocky and her legs are short. My parents, young Tara says, finish each other's sentences half the time, and it's kind of cute when it's not your own parents, otherwise it comes off as kind of annoying. The shorter girl swallows her beer hard. So they read one another's minds. Tara slams a shot of tequila before her face cringes. My parents persistently say what the other is thinking all the time. It's like if a couple were conscious of trying to do these certain things, like having the same dreams or practicing finishing each other's sentences or just building bonds that reciprocate one another. Tara takes a deep breath. The world would be so much more romantic or, some other whatever sappy shit. Amused by their conversation, the dark-headed girl swirls her straw round and round in what appears to be a Coke with whiskey about half full. She says, "You're fun. What's your name?" She waits for Tara. Finishing one more shot with more facial cringing, Tara slams the empty shot down. "I'm Tara," she replies. The girl takes an emphatic drink of her whiskey. "Tara," she says. "What an interesting name. It means star or light of the soul. Did you know that? Like a female Buddha. Or goddess." The girl winks. Tara actually didn't know this. For the first time, Tara looks directly into the girl's eyes. The light from the bar reflects in them, and they're gorgeous. A purple electricity courses through them, coupled with the depth from such eyes we all wish to see in a lover. Inside them, everything exists, yet at the same time, it's only you and them. "You care to step outside with me for a minute?" the girl proposes. "I can't smoke weed once I've been drinking. It'll wreck me. Sorry." The girl looks confused. "I don't know what that is." Her tone seems honest. "Well, I'm not a lesbian either, if that's relevant to this scenario." The girl takes a hefty gulp of her whiskey. "Well, plan B it is then." The people in the bar suddenly evaporate. The walls follow suit. The booze, the smoke, all are gone. In a flash of time, everything changes, leaving both girls standing outside in a parking lot full of cars that will soon be driven by drunken assholes. Tara gasps for air, the hair follicles on her arms standing on end, feeling that there might be vomit working its way up her throat. What just happened? Tara gags. Her hands drop from her head to her hips, back to her head, looking back at the bar and then back to the parking lot they seemingly stand in. The girl's eyes are brighter purple now. I took us forward a little bit. You're okay. It's like fast forwarding or whatever you call it. Don't throw up on me, although you wouldn't be the first. It's not a big deal. It's sort of a thing that freaks your kind out, I know. Oh, that's all? Tara shouts. No big deal? She gags another time. Chill, girl. They saw us get up and leave in their regular speed as usual. You'll understand soon enough, so no reason to even try right now, you know? Tara throws up in her mouth. I saw that. You almost made it. The nameless girl shakes her head. Tara spits the vomit out. Did you roofie my drink? You shithead. Oh, God, it tastes terrible. She breaks off into another thought. Tell me your name. And what the fuck? The nameless girl's face tightens. Who aren't I? She quizzically smirks. Tara isn't amused. What is that supposed to mean? Did you drug me? Am I drugged? A laugh springing from the girl carries bass, creating an echo that kicks trash up against the building, rumbling the sky. No one drugged you. Stop being so serious, girl. And that attitude. This is supposed to be a rewarding moment. Now, are you ready? The girl's eyes close. Time slows down. In an instant, the girl opens her eyes and outbursts purple blooming lotus flowers. Tara again stands on the moon. She remembers. She remembers how she met one of them before at the bar when she was still a young college student. Tara watches a young version of herself speaking, watching the experience unfold at the bar. Her younger self asks the other girl one more time, what's going on? And the other girl answers, I gotta be honest, I don't really know how it all works. I'm kinda new. Tara's shoulders drop. Oh, for God's sake. The other girl answers quickly. You wouldn't understand it even if I could explain it. Your human brains work in probabilities, infinite bits by bits of information. And it's rather chaotic, but you all try to cram it in to make sense. And it's not that it doesn't make sense at all, just not total sense. I gotta say, though, I'm totally surprised to hear about this human ability to read others' minds. Tara watches on from the moon, watching some past version of herself in conversation with the purple-eyed girl outside the bar. These aren't quite memories she's recalling. They're experiences. Experiences existing in space-time that she can travel back to. Her unique piece of existence traveling through time. Call it her soul, call it consciousness, or call it simply the grand mystery. Conjuring these moments from existence to perhaps reveal something. Tara turns to Selene on the moon, saying, Am I? Selene answers her unformed question. You are goddess. This is your tribe. My story is your story. The first snow begins. There's a fire crackling in the wood-burning stove. Wood that Michael's chopped and stacked hugs the belly of a snow-covered tarp outside. Satan runs back and forth from the bedroom to the front door, tail hooking the air, turning to run back into the bedroom in a sprint too fast for her control. Piles of books teeter in towers along the small hallway, lining in multiple stacks, doomed to collapse at any moment from Satan's mishandling of her own flailing, erratic feet. Above, a jet thunders through the sky. The snow picks up pace and the fields begin to powder densely, the fence posts holding a few inches, the garden beds frozen, the pond showing signs of ice. Michael lies stretched out on a wool blanket near the fire, his hands folded, placed on his stomach as they do before they show you off to your family and to the public, later burying you in the ground. He lies back comfortably and lets his mind go. Satan trickles down the hallway, looping around Michael's feet, coming to a rest by the flames, seemingly and expectantly quite comfortable next to them. His mind roams through memories and imaginaries, blank moments where there seems nothing of substance to be here or there, neither nor, walls of color in many shapes, different ages, graffitied bricks, mortar, flowers, chopped wood, the sun, planets, plastic bottles floating in the ocean, coffee cups steaming on tabletops, phones ringing, guitars playing, a drum beat, boom, tap, boom, boom, tap, boom, boom, tap. These are his thoughts. Electrical colors, streams of white pulsing energy, toilets flushing, clouds, food, pizza, pasta, eggs, fruit, eating. He's eating. There are people. People are dying. Clouds again. Mountains. Snow caps on mountains. He's running. He's fighting. He's laughing. Crying. Blood everywhere. Wine spilling. Traffic honking. He thinks of Ruby, their discussions, then of Naya, her gentleness, a feeling of emptiness, and then fullness. Life as a movie, life as an illusion, social media feeds and news reports, and then the goddesses, their eyes and their fire, his parents, Tara's parents, Tara doing that goofy dance she did, Renee dancing with her. There's light, light flashes, more light. Tara. He thinks of Tara. And here he begins to focus. A memory of him and her lying in a hammock in her mother's yard, the house she'd grown up in nearly all her life. Tara and Michael's lease, having run its course on their apartment, leaves them living with their parents for a while they look for a new home. All this while he just begins his PhD program. They cuddle in a swaying hammock, not saying much at all, not thinking much at all. Empty peace, fullness. The sun begins to set behind the 6-foot-tall privacy fence her dad pridefully finished weeks before. A dog barks somewhere. Geese and grasshoppers are faint across the lake. Tara's father is watching the game inside. The announcer's talking over the crowd and over her mother who's yelling, asking from the bathroom, "Who just scored? Was that LeBron?" Michael remembers this as the night Renee was conceived. It wasn't particularly mind-blowing sex on this occasion. Quiet, rather quick, and inside Tara's childhood bedroom. Something was undoubtedly unique about the session, however. Tara had been gone for a week out in Vegas for a wedding, enough time for the couple's affection to have been starved. The two lie there in a heightened emotional tremor, both visibly tingling all over. Michael thinks it's just himself. This triggering, ecstatic rupture he can only compare with a similar time he had taken LSD in his first year of college. He can't explain it any better than that right now, and he'll never explain it any better. Everything ignited in him inside her. They hold one another in bed, Michael remaining quiet about his tantalizing feeling, gasping through the emotions. She maneuvers her body with her shoulder, nudging him with her head as she slides her mouth up his cheek to his ear, whispering, "Why does this feel so right?" With little air in between, the words roll out of his mouth. "I don't know." They lie there with hearts pounding. "It feels like deja vu," she says. Michael stares at the ceiling. Yeah, I guess it does." Watching from long beyond the ceiling, far beyond the time that this happened, from the moon, Tara watches her and Michael in bed having this conversation. Michael remains on the floor of his new home, next to his fire, envisioning with his eyes closed. Neither are aware they've both time-traveled to meet in the past. "I've never felt like this." She clings harder to him. In bed, wrapped around one another, also estranged by two different worlds or dimensions, entangled by one another's spin, separated by life and death, merged in some unexplainable way, some imaginable way. Creation, beauty, existence, life, death, they. Inside her, life struggles, struggling to live, competing to bloom, competing to one day face death. Inside a seed of life swims to find actualization, reaching her egg. Why is this so right? On the moon, by the fire, in bed together. The waves pound and slam the shores as they spread across the face of the bank, salt mixing into sand, shells surfacing to float out to sea, becoming buried underneath those freckles of land, washing up to glisten in sun, reflecting in the eyes of a little girl with little toes, placing it in her tiny palm with an intention to gift. An old woman in a smoky room watches her TV show she'll enjoy talking about later with her granddaughter. She eats blackberry pie, bite by bite by bite. A dark-haired woman locks the door to her dry cleaning business on her way home in falling snow. She glances up to the moon in the night sky, a white halo encircling it. Flames reflect in the feline's eyes. Why is this so right? Plucked from sand, strung along thin material by a mother. "A necklace for you," the girl says. Michael's bare toes are sunk in gray chalk. Eyes tightly closed. Darkness above with dull, ashy substance covering his entire body now. In front of him, a woman he can barely recognize, a form shifted from what he's known, but still, he knows. It's so right. Her lavender eyes glimmer. "But how?" he asks. She looks into him. She is eternal now. Her strength and foresight guided him. He has forged a way. "How?" he says. "Love. Love."